Okay, let's get started. This is the Safe by Density webinar. Thanks for coming. I'm joined today by Leanna Castello, who runs our customer success team. She's a rock star. So today we're just gonna talk a little bit about our customers and our own thoughts on getting back to work. And of course our new product Safe, how we feel we can help people address some of the problems they're encountering during that process. And we'll also go through some specific customer examples so you can see how people are using density to help them get back to work. I'm in full remote or work from home garb, so I apologize. I made a promise to myself I'd wear pants, and I'm keeping that promise. Okay, so a little bit
Good for
about
you, Rob.
density. Thanks, Leah. So a little bit about density. So we're a network of sensors installed above doorways. You can install us across the entirety of a portfolio and get really accurate foot traffic data for that portfolio. A really important aspect of our product is that we're super privacy conscious. So I know this kind of looks like a thermal camera, and that might cause some confusion right now because people are actually implementing that, but in reality, it's actually just depth values. So we take depth values using our technology, plot them as like a two-dimensional image, and then essentially look for people. I know that's some techno babble there, but again, super privacy conscious, and all of that processing is done on board. So none of it's actually sent through the cloud as well. We then take that data and expose it as simple entrances, exits, and occupancy data. There's also some really cool derivative metrics that we expose. And we expose those historically, so you can go and sort of look at performance over time, but we also expose those in real time through SMS alerts, or if you have our native mobile application, we can expose those through push notifications. So we're all here. I think everyone's aware that the past couple of months have been life-changing for just about everybody. Density had this really unique perspective and sort of a front row seat to the change that happened. Really over the course of 2 weeks, we watched people's properties just clear out. And we knew we didn't want to be too reactive as soon as we saw that. So we had like that early opportunity, but instead we sort of took our time, listened, and I think now feel prepared to like share our opinion and share some of our customers' thoughts on how they can get back to normal. We knew people were going to want to come back. We knew they weren't going to come back in the same numbers. And we really thought like we could help. Our perspective though is sort of this two-sided problem where we knew employees were going to want to actually be safe. Sorry, employers were going to want to actually create a safe environment for their employees. But beyond just making it safe, we knew they needed a way to actually convince people that it was safe. So that was sort of the primary problem that we wanted to address out of the gate, where, you know, typically we're back of house management tool. We wanted to ensure we were helping employers actually expose that data. And then of course, most technologies that you see cropping up right now, we think qualify as surveillance. And that's just something that we sort of always have a strong opinion about. And we felt like we could help people get back to work safely without actually invading people's privacy. A little quote from a customer here. It's just, I think people know this is going to be a long transition and they're prepared for it, but I thought it was pretty funny. Someone's pretty bummed about handshakes. Just really interesting how behavior is going to change in small ways. But so with that, we introduced Safe. And so I'm going to hand it off to Leanna here to talk about some of the feature set and some of our customers.
Thanks, Rob. So Safe by Density is a suite of functionality that we categorize into these three main buckets to help you give information real time to the people that need it to help return to work or participate in business or going to a space in a safe way. So the first category is display. So getting the real time information to people so they can make good decisions. The second category is alerts. So notifying the people who can take action when key activities are occurring, say number of entrances or a certain occupancy in a space. And then analytics, which allows you to monitor compliance or monitor how your portfolio is doing in light of these policy changes that you're making, or different ways that you are or aren't encouraging people to come back to your business or employees to come back to work. So we're going to walk through a few examples from how customers are using this today. And then as Rob mentioned, he's going to jump in and actually show you live in our application, in our demo instance, what that looks like as well. So display, it's a display. But we think that our hypothesis is that, people are smart. They just need information to make good decisions. And so by using your occupancy data to help inform, hey, this space is crowded from what we consider a good capacity based on social distancing abilities, that you'll be able to encourage employees to self-regulate and even determine on how they're spending their time throughout the day in a really safe way. This is also an empowering thing for employees, so that I know, hey, I can go to the cafeteria when I feel comfortable. I can go to the bathroom when I feel comfortable. And so using this functionality has especially come up in places where you don't know how busy it is until you go into it. So bathrooms have actually been a really hot topic. Wasn't necessarily a consideration set that was on our radar in a really big way prior to COVID, but now we've seen a lot of customers installing density outside of their bathrooms so that employees can know how many people are in the bathroom. Since I can't see in from the outside, how many people are in there? Am I going to feel comfortable? Is there going to be physical space for me to go and not feel like I'm brushing up against someone else?
Just to touch on that, definitely not one of the founders' core goals when we started the company to help people solve bathrooms, but it's super interesting how this data is applicable in so many different ways.
But it's important, right? Like if you're at work all day, it's a service. You can't avoid the cafeteria. You can bring your own lunch, but you can't avoid the restroom. And so
totally.
Giving employees tools so that they can feel more comfortable when they're actually having to use that facility is really important and helpful and valuable. Break rooms, other amenity spaces, cafeterias, and then lobbies. So especially if you're in a multi-story building, lobbies tend to be areas where people queue or congregate as they're waiting for elevators. And those can also be a tight point where knowing how busy those spaces are can help employees know when to come or when to leave their desks to potentially go down to lunch, that kind of thing. So the next item around alerts is, with density, you can alert based on any of these occupancy or visiting data in the system. So our customers are in a lot of ways using this, for example, to notify facilities or security if places are starting to hit capacity or look like they're about to exceed capacity. And this is a way that you can have a person of authority step in and help make sure that a place is staying safe, that people have appropriate space between one another. If we go to the next slide, another way that companies are using alerts is for activity-based cleaning. So, as a space gets busy or after a space gets busy, being able to do intraday cleaning and notify your facilities team of, hey, there's been a lot of activity in the space. Like you should probably send a cleaning team in to keep it extra, to do some extra cleaning. And because you have this information across your spaces, you can optimize which spaces you're focusing intraday cleaning on, like those busy times. So for example, your cafeteria, you might make sure that you're sending people in right as that's starting to dip after breakfast or after lunch. And then at the end of the day too, you can just prioritize you're probably gonna clean all your spaces, but you can prioritize those deep cleaning efforts on the spaces that were highest use, highest traffic. And you can do it with data versus guess how people were using that space during the day.
And just to add to that too, part of the solution too is also displays and empowering the employees to make decisions themselves. So the goal is to try to avoid those times in which you need to maybe alert and triage, but recognizing that it is super important as people are people.
Yeah. And lunchtime is usually a pretty consistent time for most people, for example.
Definitely.
And then to talk about monitoring, this is an example from an essential services customer of ours as corporate offices in the Midwest. And what you can do with density is evaluate across your portfolio, how is your office utilization trending based on the policies you're putting into place. So in this instance, the customer had very high utilization. They were really trying to target around 100% capacity steady state pre-COVID. Once shelter in place happened, because they're essential service, they did keep some minimal amount of staff, about 10 to 15% over that period of time. And they were very happy to see that okay, when I'm even looking at the data, when I thought I was going to have 10 to 15% capacity utilization in my spaces, that's really what happened. And then similarly, as they've come out of shelter in place and started allowing more employees back into the office, as of recently, they were targeting about 40% utilization. And same thing, they're able to see based on who we've authorized to come back to the office, how many people are actually coming back to the office, that we are in fact hitting at about that 40% utilization. So we can feel really good about that. Conversely, if they were seeing that we were way over or way under, they would know that we maybe needed to encourage more employees to continue to work from home, or actually if you're underutilized, then could allow even more employees to start working from the office.
And just a little note, that dip there is Memorial Day, in case people are curious. Also, just a quick reminder, you can submit questions sort of as we go. There's a little Q&A button you can click. We really like answering questions sort of at the end of this. So just a quick PSA. But cool, Leanna, anything else from customers?
I think those hit on some of the core topics, and cool. Happy to answer more questions or any questions that people have after you wrap the demo.
Cool. So yeah, let's dive into our dashboard. So every density customer gets access to our dashboard. It's organized into 5 key components now with the release of display, but spaces, analytics, dashboards, live, and displays. The spaces view is kind of your overall catch-all view. You can see live data coming into a space. This is our demo environment, so that's why there are so many people in here, and you can still see live data. But for displays, we've made it really simple. You can set up a display, and they'll appear in this list here with whatever threshold you set it at. So in order to get it onto a TV, you really just or a TV or any kind of display, you launch it from here, and it opens a tab with a URL that you can essentially paste into any display and open it up and keep it running at all times. So there's also a tally mode that allows people to control occupancy. That's helpful for some lobbies or locations in which maybe you have guards sort of manually counting people. We've released that on a case-by-case basis. But I'll just quickly demo how this works. So if there were a women's room on a floor, as people enter the room, the percent at which it's hitting its threshold will go up. When it reaches that threshold, it'll immediately change to 100% full. We also include a wait time. Again, this is a demo space, so this isn't necessarily representative of what a real wait time might be. But it's important to note we're able to do this totally anonymously. So we're able to calculate what we call dwell time and then expose what a relative estimate might be for a space. That's typically used in cafes or grocery stores and such.
And maybe another important call out is if you don't want to display wait time in a place where it might be considered more sensitive, like a restroom, we have the ability to not expose wait time. Yeah,
totally. Actually, that's probably a more accurate reflection of restrooms. We actually usually don't expose wait time for restrooms. It's also important to note you can add your own branding here, and you can customize the message you like to give to employees. You can also show a space list in an upcoming release. So we also make it really easy to add alerts. So in our example, we use the All-Star Cafe, and alerts are super simple. So there's just a button up here in the top right. You can create a new alert. Type in any old phone number, and then set it for any capacity. So in this case, if it's 200 people, I can set an alert. I can also then add what's called an escalation alert. So basically every 30 minutes, if it remains over this capacity, I'll get a continued alert until it's resolved. Then if it increases by, say, another like 40 people, it'll trigger another alert during that time period. So I'll go ahead and save that alert, and it's just triggered. Basically send an SMS to that number. You could also do this on the mobile phone, on your mobile phone, in our native application, and receive push notifications. Tons of releases upcoming. There, I was hoping to be able to demo them for this particular webinar, but tons of improvements that are coming soon. You can set it for utilization, rate of entry, and people per square foot, which are metrics that people are using during this time.
And Rob, just to address a question that just came in,
Sure.
can you what's the timeline to send alerts to, like an email or distribution list?
Yeah, so probably end of July, we'll have a complete overhaul of our alerting system, in which you'll be sent it to a distributed list of people. We also be able to send it via email, and again, be able to trigger alerts on additional metrics. Good question. Okay, last but not least, so at its core, Density started very much as a reporting tool. And we have our analytics tool, which allows people to craft very customized queries. I'll just quickly show you how that works. So we include some recommendations out of the gate, takes out some of the guesswork. So if you label some of your spaces as cafes, you can quickly jump into a cafe summary. So here's an example of what that summary might look like. So these are cafeterias across an entire portfolio. So locations in San Francisco, locations in New York. I can then filter that time range really easily. So obviously offices are closed on Saturday and Sundays, and they're not really open from midnight to midnight. Quickly change that query, and we can get super granular as well, sort of focus on hourly metrics and see trends over the course of the day. I can then save this report as like my cafe report, so I can visit it later or share it with others. And then I can also download and export this data, either the time series data or just the summary table below, which tends to be super valuable for a lot of people, as you get some really nice metrics here, like at most, how many people does a cafeteria hold, sort of broken down, and then across the board on average, and so on. So some really cool features. What's probably most helpful for people during this time is you can actually, you have additional metrics here. So one of those is utilization, available capacity, and we'll be able to do people per square foot, which just zoom in here. So this sort of takes into account the capacity of the space and how much it's eclipsed by. I have some weird spaces in here. I'll have to check on that. But so in this case, the All-Star Cafe, isn't really eclipsing 100, but you see it eclipses 100 here. So this is where people are modifying their capacities and able to monitor when those spaces actually go over what they're considering a safe threshold. So I think that's it for the demo. Leanna, do you think I'm missing anything?
No, so just to come back to this, some things that we're seeing from customers are, one, some of them are actually changing the capacity of each of their spaces individually in a very, more of a bottoms up way. Other customers are taking more of a tops down approach of, hey, we knew our pre-COVID capacity for this space was 100 people, or just generally, we knew our pre-COVID capacity for each space, and we're going to reduce that target capacity now to 30% of that. So they're just monitoring across 30% versus like this customer example here, versus necessarily changing every single capacity for every single space. It just depends on what's right for your business and probably how big your portfolio is.
Totally. Cool. So that's pretty much all we have, but I think we have some questions, and hopefully we can open it up to some discussion.
Yeah. So Rob, I'll ask you these questions that are coming in. So first question around safe display. And this might be a case where you want to tee up live.density.io. Do employees only see occupancy for the one display, or is there a central point they can look at before they even make the decision to take that elevator or go leave their desk?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we in addition to that, and this is sort of all part of the same product, you can actually just show a list of displays, their capacity limits. So this is an example sort of pre-COVID where people actually were interested in exposing busyness of a list of spaces, and this is on our demo account. So this is very much a in partnership with displays. So in addition to, like, you're in the lobby and that lobby is safe, you can then see every floor and see if every floor is safe. and again, just make better decisions both as an employee and an employer, and ensuring that safety is top of mind.
And one other thing about this view is that it's highly customizable. So you could create a subset that's just bathrooms, that's just floors, that's just if you have multiple cafeterias or other amenity spaces that you think people might be deciding between. We can help you make sure that you're configuring these different views for those different types of information that your employees or anyone visiting your space might be interested in.
Exactly. Cool. Next question.
Great. Next question. How can this product safely monitor occupancy counts in restrooms and or commercial offices while also maintaining user privacy?
Yeah, great question. So if we go back here, so again, one really important aspect of our software is that we don't analyze images with personally identifiable information. So our device takes depth readings, and we take those depth readings and we convert it into these like images of blobs, basically. And we've trained our algorithm to detect these blobs as people, and then we just sort of track them through a scene and count them as they cross over some artificial threshold. So we never know who's going into the bathroom or who's not. Of course, like, yeah, not the most important information, frankly, but what is important, again, is keeping people safe. So, we're doing our best just to be a privacy forward company. Of course, like, I think privacy is a spectrum. But what we've always found is while employers are sometimes willing to let go of that demand for privacy, employees always want it. I mean, it's always top of mind for people. Like, I always try to picture myself in an office and sitting at a desk and knowing that there's a camera sitting above me just makes me feel uncomfortable. It's even like when I'm in a grocery store and I'm checking out and I'm on screen in front of that self-checkout line, it just feels weird. And I have to like wave at the camera, whatever it is. So, there are no camera waves with our technology. There's none of that. Like, we just don't know who you are or don't know what you're doing. We just know that there's a person in a space.
Exactly. I think, Rob, to sum it up, we're not a camera. We literally don't take images in. We're just throwing down light to understand how far away are the things below the light, and it's bouncing back. And because of machine learning, we can tell when that's a human versus a backpack versus a cart. Another thing though that's really important about this whole concept of privacy is perception. So a few things about just the policy or the process of installing these. For somewhere that's sensitive like a bathroom or even like a conference room, we recommend installing the sensor out on the outside of that space, because even though you as the employer who's putting this up, us as density in the technology know that it's anonymous, that it won't track everything that everyone is doing. Employees don't always know that, or they don't always remember that. And so by putting it outside, you just ensure that extra bit of privacy, that it not something that's listening into your meetings, is not something that can see you in a meeting or in the restroom, which is an even more sensitive space.
Absolutely. Other questions, Leanna?
And then another question that just came in, what are you seeing participating companies doing in addressing public restrooms when establishing return to work policies post-COVID? So I assume that this is around a shared, when you're in a space where you have shared facilities, like shared restrooms or shared cafe spaces. And so what we're seeing with these kind of situations is tenants reaching out to their landlords or their property owners, and also talking to other tenants about, can we get this type of technology installed? One, for visibility for the employees, so people know when something like a restroom is being used. And then two, is it something that the property manager can actually use in making sure cleaning's happening on a regular basis after visits, and that you're deep cleaning the highly used spaces at the end of the day. It is a little more complicated when you don't own the restroom, but by getting that tenant, that participation and making sure that tenants are on board, and then going directly to the property manager, those are ways that we've seen that kind of policy or that kind of process actually be able to be put in place.
Cool.
I think those are all the questions I see. Any last ones while we're still on? Okay. Well, with that, then it looks like we're about time anyway, so we can go ahead and close out the session. Thank you, everyone, for spending some time with us to learn more about Density Safe. The Density team, Rob, myself, are always here to answer questions or help you think through how you might set up a program. So please reach out to us if you're interested.
Awesome. And always a pleasure, Leanna. Talk soon.
Always.
All right,
Bye,
bye.
Rob.